So Taylor Allison Swift is from Wyoming, Pennsylvania, and at the age of 14, she moved to Nashville, actually really Hendersonville, where her and her family were moved there so that she could join a record label company in Nashville. And at the age of 15, she signed her first deal. Later that year, a year later, she released her debut album, which is the longest charting album of the 2000s in the US. The third single from the album, Our Song, made her the youngest person to write and perform a #1 song on the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart. She has won a ton of different awards. I'm not even going to go into all that. She's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, female artist of the last decade and the latter half of the decade before the 2000s. And she is regarded as one of the biggest celebrities in the world.
Key success factors are necessary for a company that wants to be successful in the industry, and they are important because they keep the industry flourishing but also keeps the customers satisfied. So we concluded that for the music industry, the most important key success factors are electronic or digital technologies, artist brand and appearance, maintained intellectual property, innovative adequacy, customer satisfaction, album cover design, and competitive music pricing. And so the use of these key success factors with customer needs and wants will create an environment that will make the company prosper in the industry. And the consumer market is constantly changing, so that creates challenges for the artist, but they are willing to make changes because they want to keep their customers satisfied. So to create a competitive environment, the most important key success factors are competitive price and innovation. And competitive pricing is very important because the customer must be willing to pay the price for the album or the music, but they also should think that the album or the music, the songs, are worth that price. And innovation is important because the artist has to constantly be coming up with new music that catches the customer's ear.
In our business, in our music business. So I'm going to talk about 5 forces model, both as 5 forces model and strategic growth map. So in 5 forces model, we have supplier power, we have customer power, we have threats of entry, we have threats of potential substitutes, and then we have competitive rivalry. So under supplier power, in music, supplier power means that talking about the suppliers of musical instrument and all those kind of stuff. So in this case, supplier power is very high because we have a lot of musicians out there. They scrambling for the suppliers to supply their musical instruments. We have both existing and upcoming musicians. They are all want to buy the musical instruments and all those kind of stuff. We also have customer power. Customer power also is high because there is a lot of musicians out there, and then they are scrambling for customers to buy their musical their musics. To listen to their musics. And then we have also threats of entry, which means in threats of entry we have new upcoming musicians also. They're going to pose a threat to the music because they are going to threaten the market for Taylor Swift business. We have also threats of potential substitutes. Listeners they have the potential of switching to listen to the music from other musicians. So we also have competitive rivalry. Competitive rivalry, that means we have those upcoming musicians, and then we have the existing ones. They are competing in order to gain in order to gain the funds and maintain the fans that they've been listening to their music. That's all about the Fire Forces model.
Going into the weighted competitor analysis, as you can see, we have the chart here. We chose these particular competitors just because these were the people who went into the industry kind of the same time as Taylor Swift did, and they kind of targeted the same people as her as well. Same age group, social dynamic, things like that. We chose these key success factors solely based on pretty much the industry average and what was important in the industry. As you can see, we ranked artist brand and appearance and then customer satisfaction as the highest of importance in the weight. So as you can see, totaled at the bottom, we kind of, as we ranked them, and Taylor Swift ranked at 7.7, which, beats the rest of her competitors. And then coming in very close was Ariana Grande at 7.55. Katy Perry was the lowest at 5.95. And you can just kind of see as how they rank against each other, and what they do in their key success factors is how they kind of compete and how they rank against each other.
So Taylor's driving forces of change include, or within an industry must include level of innovation, globalization, demand for expectations, change in who might see it or is using the products and services, peripheral products and services, and technological adaptations. So her economic forces, I would say, would be her musical platforms, her record deal, her endorsements, and her net worth. These are all really important. These are what's caught, like bringing in revenue for her, more stuff that you can monetize for the most part. Oh, and her tours. Her tours are another really big one. That's probably how I assume how she makes the majority of her money. Her sociocultural forces are her worldwide appeal for music. People all over the world listen to Taylor Swift. I guarantee you could go to China and people in China and Western Europe 100% probably know who Taylor Swift is. The social media following and fan culture I think she had over 80 million Instagram followers last time I checked, and that is massive. That's almost as many as Kim Kardashian and what's her name, Kylie Jenner, which are the two biggest social media. Oh, and Cristiano Ronaldo, who are the biggest social media influencers in the world. She has a massive influence over the culture, like teen girl culture. I would say I know just about every single girl that I know listens to Taylor Swift, just especially around here. And also in the fashion industry, she's very prominent. In the fashion industry, she's always featured in Vogue and a lot of different fashion magazines, and she's very often when she's at the Met Gala, I know that she is putting on for that. Technological forces, this is kind of like where it kind of got a little difficult for us. I would say like her technological advantages would be the niche between pop and country music that she has, because if you listen to her music, you would know like back in 2012 she kind of like shifted from being like primarily a country star into a pop star, and there was a big change that happened there for her with that. And then her innovative sound in country music. In country music at that point in time, when her first album was pretty traditional, from what I understand. I'm not a very big fan myself, but I do know that her second and third albums were considered to be a little out there for country music, and they were very like game-changing for the industry. For her political forces, I would say she's a very vocal feminist. She's very for LGBTQ rights and feminism, women's rights. She's hugely vocal for those. Her influence in the industry, she's actually like fought Spotify a lot to try and get Spotify to pay artists more for how much they're getting paid. That's been very, very beneficial for a lot of artists, because I think, so later on in our presentation, it says that Spotify pays artists 0.00437 cents per listen, compared to what most other platforms are almost paying like 1 cent per listen, just about a little less than that. but you get my point. Like, Spotify is kind of ripping off these artists, and Taylor has been very, very influential in kind of pushing Spotify to pay artists more. Her political influence, I'm not going to get political, but she's spoken out quite a bit about the last presidential election. She's always talking, like, she talks politics a pretty decent amount. I do know that. And also her charity is very good. She is very good, like children's homes, orphanages, obviously children that can't, don't really get a lot, but yeah, she's been very charitable.
So to talk a little bit about our SWOT analysis, we're going to talk about the strengths first, which were loyal fan base, variety of music genre, built reputation over time, branding, and writes all of her own music. So these were kind of the strengths that we felt were the biggest in Taylor Swift's career. She's had an incredibly loyal fan base from the beginning. They have stayed, kind of incredibly loyal throughout her entire career. And she started out in country, but then she moved to pop, which is kind of interesting. Not a lot of artists do that. So that was kind of a dynamic thing that she got to do with that. She built her reputation up over time. So when she first came into the market, she, was very... not very well known. She didn't have a lot of fans, but slowly she gained a ton of fans. Like I said in the beginning, she had a very loyal fan base. And, as time went on, she did grow in a ginormous fan base, which was incredibly, beneficial on her part. Her branding has been excellent. One of her big things is the number 13 because that's the day of her birthday and it's her lucky number. She wrote it on her hand for all of her concerts, and that kind of became part of her brand. All of her fans used it and things like that. She also writes her own music, which is incredibly rare in today's, music world. Not a lot of artists sit down and compose and write their own music, so that kind of makes Taylor very unique. Next, let's talk about her weaknesses, which are her songs are very similar in topic. She's slowly becoming a little bit less relevant over time. She's not gaining a lot of fans, and she's kind of outgrowing her music. So Taylor Swift became popular because she wrote her songs about all of her ex-boyfriends. And so, that kind of set who she was. That was also a part of her brand. Well, as time has gone on, a lot of people have felt as if that's immature and it's not as, good, and she should kind of find new topics in order to introduce something new to her fans rather than just kind of repeating the same old thing, which can really be a weakness, as an artist. Some of her opportunities are to expand her fan base, write music on new topics, and target an older audience. So, like I said, she has a very loyal fan base, but there's always that opportunity to expand. Like I said, she's not gaining a lot of fans just because a lot of them have been with her from the beginning, and because all of her songs, a lot of people view as the same.
The strategic group map is a map that the companies used in order to see where they fall into between the competitors. So we have the strategic groups. This means the industries that are producing the same products. They use the similar strategies, and they are also aiming to get the same customers. We have, for instance, Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, we have Katy Perry, and all other musicians. They're using the same strategies in order to gain the same customers. They also produce the same products. I mean, that means music. They produce the same music. They aim at the same customers. They use the same strategies in order to gain the fans. Or the customers. So in the map we have they use in terms of competitive pricing and innovative adequacy. We have Taylor Swift, and then we have Justin Bieber, we have Ariana Grande. They fall in the same group. They have the higher level of innovative adequacy as compared to Selena Gomez, and Katy Perry.
So I would say Taylor's main business and corporate level strategy, we had a lot of trouble with this because it doesn't really relate a ton to in this situation, I feel like, but we kind of did the best we could with it. I would say like her strategy seems to be one of related diversification, because her
the study of various value-adding activities of the business, and they are important because they allow the company to know their strengths, but also their opportunities and the areas that need improvement. And there is primary activities and support activities. So the 5 primary activities are inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, marketing and sales, and service. So for Taylor Swift, the 5 primary activities, so inbound logistics, she manufactures her own music in-house. And then Taylor Swift Nation, which is in charge of all her tangible products, they import all the materials that are needed to create those tangible products. The operations, she performs on concert tours, and then she takes her tour merchandise to promote her products. The outbound logistics, she ships her products to stores and she provides them on her website store, so that way people can buy, and people have the option to buy online or to go to a physical store. Marketing and sales, one of the biggest things that Taylor Swift is known for is her marketing. And she markets through social media, and she gives her fans and her customers clues on social media, and so the customers get an idea as to what she is coming out with, and then they can purchase online, in stores, or directly from her website. And then service, she has allowed her music to be on streaming services, and that makes it easier for her fans to just purchase her music off of that and listen to it. So for the 4 support activities, they are administration, human resource management, technology development, and procurement. And so for Taylor Swift, the administration, she has very high standards for her employees and directors and producers. She just wants the best out of all of them. Human resource management, Taylor Swift hires motivated people that are willing to make the best effort for the team. And so she expects a lot out of her workers and her team. Technology development, she is designing and developing electronic data security systems, and one is facial recognition. And she's starting to use facial recognition at her concerts for more security for herself. Procurement, she created a relationship with Apple because she wrote an online letter to Apple that was titled "To Apple, Love Taylor," and that was advocating for the music industry overall, because the artists were not getting paid for the 3-month trial that Apple was offering their customers, and so she didn't like that, so she let Apple know. With the use of these, she can compare herself to her competitors and see where she stands. And then she can create a competitive advantage by focusing on either primary or support activities, or combining both of them.
So I would say like Taylor's main source of confidence would be that with the last few decades, the last 2 decades, she has broken so many records. Her albums have been enormous, very heavily fan anticipated. I would say that her last 2 albums have been, according to the majority of the fan base, has been a little disappointing. I know a lot of fans have not been as happy with the past 2 albums as they have been with the past few, especially like her third to last album, 1989, which was arguably her best album, or her best received album. And that kind of tends to stem from the fact with her past 2 albums, she's kind of somewhat tried to reinvent herself, but it hasn't really worked out for her that well. Her sound it's not as innovative as it has been in the past. It's not as, I would say, groundbreaking. The music's still good, but could be better. And she's not making breakup anthems for girls anymore. She's more writing about her own life, and that tends to happen with artists as they grow older.
So going into a little bit about the financial analysis, it's not super in-depth just because Taylor Swift is a person rather than a company. There's not a lot of financial information available to us to see, but I kind of went into her net worth quite a bit and showing where that came from, things like that. So Taylor Swift's net worth as of 2020 is $360 million. That is not including her revenue from her Reputation tour, which was in 2018. It was also the highest grossing tour in history. So her net worth would actually be a lot higher than that. It is estimated that her net income in 2018 before taxes was $185 million. So that's excluding, costs of tours and employee fees and all things, that you have to pay for, expenses. So that's kind of where she's at. It's estimated that she makes about $9 million per show. So, that's like crazy. She makes $17 per ticket sale, which if you look at her prices is not actually a lot, comparatively speaking. So that is kind of, where we went into as the financial analysis. I did go into a little bit about into the current ratio. The liability that she would have is that her old record producer, Scooter Braun, actually purchased all of her albums before, from Reputation on, for $300 million, meaning that she cannot perform those at concerts or anything. She does not technically own those, even though she wrote them, produced them, all that, because it was her produced under her record label. He owns it and therefore owns the rights to it. So that could kind of be considered a liability, just because that makes her a little bit vulnerable, and when she plays concerts, she's not allowed to play those songs, which is very disappointing to fans.
So vertical integration strategy. As I mentioned before, Taylor Swift uses a forward vertical integration, but to some extent she also uses backwards integration. And so vertical integration helps Taylor Swift to enhance her products, and considering the level of control that she has. She is very original, and she has the ability to brand herself with the use of social media, and she loves her fans, so that puts her at an advantage over her competitors. So for the backwards integration, she produces and writes her own music using her facilities, and that's just better than allowing someone else to write her music. And for forward integration, like I said earlier, she has control over where her products get sold and who gets to sell her products, but also what streaming services provide her music, because she only wants those with a paid subscription to be able to listen and buy her music. So if Taylor Swift didn't have this control, then anyone would be able to buy or sell her products, and anyone would be able to just play her music or allow other people to play her music. So having control is just making herself better.
So my recommendation would be for her to kind of take her musical style back to what it used to be, and for her to go and instead of making like music about like how like fame and everything has affected her and all that, to go back to more of like what her roots were, which were breakup anthems, talking about boys, talking about things that people can relate to. And I think that the big thing that's gone on with Taylor's music is that her music is not very relatable to her fan base anymore. And so they've kind of, I'm not going to say dropped her, but like the decline in popularity is evident with her last two albums, considering that the two of them combined did not make up what her 1989 or past other three albums pulled in. So I would say that that's clearly evident that she does need a new change in sound, and something does need to change in terms of her music, I would say.